Now, this is the problem that Jeremy's had. Just think about it. Unlike Bernie Sanders in the United States, Jeremy has to operate day to day in a parliamentary framework, putting together a parliamentary opposition within a hostile PLP. He and John McDonnell were embattled on the front line from the very start. The only way to fight against such powerful opposition forces was to build an anti-establishment insurgency from below. But another problem. This was not the late 60s, 70s and early 80s, the period in which I was brought up politically, when the working class in Britain was powerful. So powerful that in 1974, some people may remember, Heath called an election on the theme of who rules, the government or the unions? And he lost. We've suffered decades of defeat since the miners' strike, although Jeremy's victory reflected in part a genuine disaffection from below against austerity and neoliberalism, part of an international movement, as I said, Greece and Spain, etc. At the same time, our movement is at a very low ebb, and this is the contradiction we face between the rise of the most left-wing leadership in Labour's history and the low ebb of class struggle. Now, our task was and is to rebuild the movement, utilising our leadership of the party to help do so, and it needed a democratic grassroots movement that would have to try openly and transparently to transform the party itself. That insurgency had to be a radical crusade against the establishment and an authentic voice for the dispossessed. But here was and is the conflict. How to achieve that while at the same time achieving sufficient unity within the PLP to keep the show on the road, the parliamentary show on the road, and the shadow cabinet sufficiently able to be effective. So those were the two aims: a party unity and the building of a radical democratic grassroots movement. How could those opposites be reconciled? And this is the nub of the problem. That tension, exacerbated by the political degeneration and incorporation of national momentum, has now reached a point of separation. I feel for Jeremy, especially after the split by the gang of 8, 9, whatever they were. He has almost impossible choices, fearing another parliamentary split that could make a general election victory, even against this bankrupt, hopeless Tory government, desperately difficult. And yet to abandon the radical grassroots movement to the power of the parliamentary party is to give up in advance of ever achieving a Labour government that will transform society. We cannot, our leaders cannot, hope to carry out a programme to transform the country without a mass movement behind it, a movement rooted in our communities through that widening to our constituency parties. A Corbyn government that sticks to its guns will face the might of the establishment, probably economic sabotage, a flight of capital, and we need to develop a response, a programme, policies for a radical Labour government. We need to build from below to sustain a Corbyn government and, where possible, go beyond its excellent but limited manifesto. Or else, lacking programme and base, we will go the way of Syriza, tossed aside by the power of capital, whatever our good intentions. Now, have no doubt, comrades, fine words ain't going to do this, the left is in a difficult moment. We're on the back foot. It's not too late to reverse the tide. Our task has to be both supportive of and independent of our leaders, because free from their pressures, we can speak truth to power. And to do so, we need to reclaim the same radical spirit and unity that won us the leadership of the party that long 3.5 years ago. We need to embody the spirit of those who have fought against oppression. In Jackie Walker's words, black and white, Jew and Gentile, united in the struggle for a better world. Thank you.